The auction block, the heat was heavy in the air. Dust swirled around the open slave market. Creatures from across the galaxy filled the space with noise, laughing, shouting, lives for credits. Among them stood a young alien girl with silver gray skin and bright violet eyes. Her name was Lyraya. Chains hung from her wrists. Her clothes were torn. She looked small, thin, and silent. But the most painful thing was not the chains. It was the face of her uncle standing behind her, the one who sold her. "You'll fetch a good price," he said coldly. "Be quiet and look sad. That helps." Lyraya didn't cry. She didn't beg. She had already done that. She had begged her family not to send her away. She had begged her uncle as he dragged her from her village. No one listened. Now she stood on a metal platform, the auction block under the burning suns. A loud voice echoed through the crowd. "Young female, strong health, obedient. Who will start the bidding?" The crowd pushed forward. Eyes stared at her like she was meat. A tall, lizard-like creature laughed. 50 credits. She's barely skin and bones." 75, another shouted. "I'll train her for the mines." A heavy-set alien with red scales raised a fat hand. 100. "I'll break her spirit in 2 weeks." The bids climbed. Lyraya closed her eyes. She wasn't listening anymore. Her soul was already far away. She remembered the river near her village, the sound of birds, her mother's voice, and then a strange silence fell. A voice spoke low and firm. 2,000 credits. Heads turned. A human stood at the edge of the crowd, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a long dark coat with dust on the sleeves. His face was hard to read. His name was Elias Cade, a former military commander. Nobody knew why he was there. The auctioneer blinked. Did you say 2,000? Elias nodded. "You heard me." Whispers filled the crowd. "A human? Why would he want her? Is she special?" The red-scaled alien snarled. 3,000. Elias didn't flinch. 5,000. The auctioneer's eyes widened. "Sir, that's almost the price of a war-bred fighter." "I'm aware," Elias said calmly. The red-scaled alien growled, "She's mine." 7,000. Elias stepped forward. 10,000 and I'll sign over my old command ship. Take it or end this farce now. Gasps echoed across the market. Even Lyraya opened her eyes. Her uncle's mouth dropped open. He had never seen so many credits in one deal. The auctioneer's voice cracked. "Sold to the human." Elias walked to the platform. The crowd stepped aside. Nobody dared block his path. Lyraya didn't move as he unlocked the chains. She just stared at him. "Why?" she asked softly. He didn't answer. Instead, he took off his coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. "We're leaving," he said. Her uncle stepped forward. "Wait, she's still my blood." Elias turned to him. His eyes were cold. "You sold your blood for a few credits. She's not yours anymore." With that, he led Lyraya through the crowd. No one stopped them. The market fell silent behind them. For the first time in weeks, she wasn't in chains, but her heart was still trapped. She didn't trust him, not yet. Freedom was just a word, and words meant nothing in a world where family could sell you, still. She didn't pull away from him, and when he said nothing for a long time, just walked beside her quietly, Lyraya began to wonder, was this man truly her buyer? Or was he something far more dangerous, her only hope? The bidding wore the ships. Engines hummed as it lifted off the trade planet. Inside, Lyraya sat in silence, staring at the floor. Her wrists still ached from the chains, though they were gone now. The coat Elias gave her felt warm, but it didn't chase away the cold inside her. She didn't understand what had happened. Why would a human, a stranger, pay such a high price for someone like her? Slaves were nothing in this part of the galaxy, especially poor village girls like her. She looked at him from the corner of her eye. Elias was sitting across from her, hands resting on his knees, his eyes closed. He looked calm, too calm. "Why?" she asked again. Her voice was low, unsure. He opened one eye. "Why what? Why did you buy me?" "I didn't buy you," he said, and then closed his eyes again. She frowned. "Then what was that back there?" "You gave away your ship," he shrugged. "It was an old ship." Lariah stared at him. Was this some game? Was he trying to earn her trust before something worse came? That's what the others always said. They're nice at first, then they change. She pulled the coat tighter around herself. "I can cook," she said suddenly. "Clean. I'll work hard. Just don't sell me again." Elias opened his eyes fully now. "You think that's why I brought you with me?" Lariah didn't answer. She didn't know what to think anymore. "I saw something," he said slowly. "In your eyes, you weren't screaming. You weren't begging. You were standing still, like a warrior ready to break but not bend." She blinked. "That didn't sound like her." "Not at all. I didn't save you because I pity you," he added. "I did it because someone should have, and no one else did." Before she could reply, the ship jolted. The voice of the AI pilot came on. "We are being followed. Unmarked. Vessel approaching fast." Elias stood up at once. "Strap in." "Who is it?" she asked, fear creeping in again. "The last bidder," Elias said, checking the control panel. He didn't like losing. Outside, the stars blurred. The other ship was gaining. Weapons locked on. Lariah's heart pounded. She had just escaped one prison. Was she going to die now? But Elias was calm. He slid into the pilot's seat and began flipping switches. "Hold tight," he said. "This is going to get rough." The enemy ship fired. A blast shook the hull. Alarm screamed. Elias rolled the ship hard to the left, flying into a nearby asteroid field. Lariah grabbed the seat tightly. "Are you crazy? We'll crash." "Better rocks than slavers," Elias muttered. He danced the ship between jagged floating stones. The chasing vessel tried to follow, but slammed into a spinning boulder. Flames burst in the distance. Lariah watched in shock as the screen showed the explosion fade into darkness. Elias leaned back, breathing hard. "Still alive," he said. She stared at him, wide-eyed. "You risked all that for me?" He didn't look at her. Just replied, "No one deserves to be sold, not even once." She felt something strange in her chest. Something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. For the first time since she was taken. She believed maybe, just maybe, this man didn't want to hurt her. Maybe he wanted to protect her. But deep down, Lariah knew the galaxy wasn't kind. Someone would come for her. Again, her family's shame wouldn't stay hidden. And she had no idea what this human would do when the past caught up. But tonight, under the cold light of distant stars, she let herself rest. Not as a slave. Not yet a free person either. Just a girl with a name and a human sitting between her. And the darkness. Asterisk, the scarred girl, the ship's door hissed shut behind her. But Lariah didn't relax. She stood frozen just inside, like a shadow waiting to disappear. The walls were clean. The air smelled of metal and something warm. Food? That was the first surprise. The second was the silence. No shouting. No orders. Just soft footsteps his. Elias Cade walked ahead without looking back. "You can sit or stand. Doesn't matter," he said calmly. "This ship doesn't bite." Lariah flinched at the joke. Was it a joke? She wasn't sure. He opened a storage compartment and pulled out a folded blanket. He tossed it on a seat, then pointed. "That's yours for now. Bed's further down the hall. No locks, no cages, She didn't move. "I'm not hungry," she said quietly, though her stomach growled in betrayal. Elias didn't argue. He just placed a steaming bowl on the small table. It smelled strange, but not bad. Real food, not scraps or ration powder. He didn't force her to eat. He didn't force her to speak. He just sat across the room and started working on a datapad like she wasn't even there. That was the third surprise. No questions, no threats, no collar. After a few minutes, Lyraya couldn't help it. She picked up the bowl with shaking hands and took a bite. It burned her tongue slightly. She didn't stop. She ate like a ghost, remembering life. Later that night, Elias passed her a med kit. "You've got bruises," he said. She stared at it. "You're giving me this?" "Unless you want me to treat your wounds myself." Her eyes narrowed. "Why are you doing this?" Elias didn't answer right away. He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "You think I have a reason?" "Everyone has a reason," she said. "People don't give without wanting something." He looked at her long and hard. "You're not wrong," he said. "But sometimes, someone just needs to do the right thing, even if no one else will." She didn't know how to respond to that. Her whole life had been built on rules. Obey, survive, hide your tears, never trust. "Back there," she whispered, "you risked everything. Even your ship for me." Elias didn't blink. "You looked like someone who was one more insult away from shattering. I've seen that look before. On soldiers, on children, on myself." That made her pause. "You were a soldier?" she asked. "I was," he said. "Not anymore. Why did you stop?" He gave a short laugh. "Because I got tired of following orders that broke people." There was a silence between them, not awkward, just heavy with things unspoken. Lyraya took the med kit and went to the back room. It was small but clean. A real bed, a fresh blanket. No chains, no watchers. She didn't sleep at first. She stared at the ceiling, waiting for the twist, waiting for the kindness to turn into something darker. She was used to that. But the ship stayed quiet, safe. She wrapped the blanket around herself tighter than needed. For the first time in years, she whispered her own name aloud, Lyraya. No one answered. The past hunts her. The stars outside the window look peaceful, silent, endless. But peace, Lyraya was learning, could be a lie. And silence could be the calm before something terrible. She had spent 6 quiet days aboard Elias's ship. No cages, no orders, just space, food, and air that didn't stink of rot or fear. But something inside her wouldn't settle. Her mind whispered warnings every night. Her dreams dragged her back to that auction block. And always her uncle's voice returned, laughing, as he handed her over like garbage. On the 7th day, it happened. An alert rang through the ship. Not loud, not shrill, but steady, purposeful. A warning. Unmarked ship approaching. The AI said flatly. Fast, stealth class. Lyraya jumped from her seat. Elias was already at the controls. His eyes were sharp, jaw tight. This wasn't a surprise to him. "They found us, didn't they?" she asked. He didn't look at her. "Probably. Who?" "Your uncle." "Or someone working for him." Her heart dropped. "He wants me dead." Elias didn't respond. She clenched her fists. "He doesn't want to admit what he did. He'll erase me to erase his shame." Still, Elias said nothing. He just moved the ship into a tight spin, avoiding the scanner beams of the approaching vessel. "He can't do this," she said. "I'm not his anymore." "He thinks he still owns you," Elias replied quietly, "and he's not the only one." A sudden burst of light flashed across the monitor. A warning shot. They weren't coming to talk. Elias moved fast. The ship dipped low and cut through a small asteroid field. The engines groaned. The panels shook. But Elias never lost control. Lariah grabbed the seat. "Can we outrun them?" "Maybe," he said. "But this isn't just about running anymore." She turned to him, breath short. "Then what is it about?" He looked at her, really looked at her. "You have two choices, Lariah. Keep hiding, keep running, or face them and make sure they never come again." Her throat tightened. She had never faced anything. She had always hidden, obeyed, survived. "Never fought, even if I want to fight," she said, voice trembling. "What can I do?" Elias handed her a small device. It hummed with energy. "They'll try to board." "When they do, you'll use this." She stared at it. "It's a weapon?" He shook his head. "It's truth. A data core. Every dirty deal your uncle made. Every name. Every sale. I found it buried in the auction house systems." Her eyes widened. "Why?" "Because if they silence you, the truth dies with you. But if this gets out," he paused, "they burn." The ship shook again this time, real damage. The hull creaked. Red lights flashed. Elias stood. "Get to the escape pod. Take the core." "If I don't make it, no." She shouted. He stopped. "I'm not leaving you," she said. "You didn't leave me." There was silence between them. Then, for the first time, Elias nodded, not as a soldier, not as a protector, but as someone who finally trusted her back. The enemy ship docked. The hiss of metal on metal filled the corridor. Boots echoed. Lariah's heart pounded. They were coming. She wasn't chained anymore. She wasn't sold. She wasn't anyone's property. And this time she wasn't afraid to be. Scene. Asterisk escaped through fire. The enemy didn't knock. The docking clamps hit like thunder. And within seconds, the ship shuddered under the weight of boots, weapons, and men who knew no mercy. Lariah stood at the corridor's edge, the data core clutched to her chest, her breath sharp in her lungs. Her legs wanted to run. Her heart wanted to hide. But Elias's voice echoed in her memory. "You can keep hiding, or you can make sure they never come again." She chose the second. From the command deck, Elias triggered a smoke field. Mist burst through the vents, covering the interior in thick gray clouds. Lights flickered red. The alarm whined, not in panic but in warning. "Stay behind me," he ordered, strapping a small blaster to his thigh. "I'm not weak," she answered. He gave her a quick look, proud but tense. "Didn't say you were. Just don't get shot." The first boarder entered with a growl and a scanner beam. But he didn't see the wire Elias had stretched across the floor. A flash, a spark, and the invader dropped, twitching. Another came from the side. Lariah didn't hesitate. She ducked, rolled, and slammed the base of the data core against his leg. He stumbled, and Elias finished him with one clean shot. The corridor filled with smoke. Shouting, chaos. They ran through metal halls, down into the belly of the ship, past old storage rooms and emergency tunnels. They moved like shadows, but the enemy was close. "Too close. They're sealing the exit routes," Elias said. "They're hurting us." "To where?" she asked, panting. "The engine bay," he answered grimly. Lariah frowned. "Isn't that a dead end?" Elias pulled a panel off the wall, revealing a narrow shaft. "Not if you know the old paths." They climbed. Tight, dark metal pressing against their backs, the sound of boots above and below. But they kept moving up, forward. Out. Then suddenly light. They emerged into the emergency launch bay, but something was wrong. The hangar doors were jammed. "Sabotage," Elias muttered. "They knew our plan." He looked around fast. "Only one way out now." He tapped a small panel. A hidden switch. Behind them, a wall of the bay shifted. It cracked open to reveal a second launch rail, damaged, but still working. "That's our fire exit," Elias said, "but it's not pretty." She looked at the small, one U shuttle perched inside it. That thing flies? Barely, but it'll get us off this ship. She turned toward him. What about the others? There are no others, he said. We're it? Suddenly, blaster fire rained down from the catwalk. Sparks flew. A shot skimmed past Laraya's cheek. She screamed and Elias pushed her. Down, returning fire fast, but there were too many. He turned to her. Go. Take the core. Use the jump rail. Don't look back. She shook her head. I said, I'm not leaving you. He grabbed her arm. You want your life back? Then you have to fight for it, even if that means running now. Tears stung her eyes, but she climbed into the shuttle. Before she could close the hatch, she looked at him one last time. Don't die, Elias. He smirked. I'll try. Then she hit the button. The rail screamed. Fire burst from the boosters. The shuttle launched out of the hidden bay just as the main engine behind it exploded. The force sent a wave of light into the stars. Lyraya held the core tightly as the stars twisted and stretched outside her window. She didn't know if he survived. She didn't know what planet she'd land on, but she knew one thing. She wasn't running from something anymore. She was running toward something, and whoever had tried to erase her, she was coming for them next. The decision. The shuttle crash-landed in the sands of a backwater moon, skidding across rock and dust before slamming into a dune and falling silent. Inside the wreckage, Lyraya pulled herself from the seat, coughing, bruised, alive. No one was waiting. No enemy ships. No friendly faces. Just wind, stars, and silence. She crawled from the wreckage, still clutching the data core. Her hands trembled not from fear this time, but from something harder. Determination, rage, truth. She survived. But what about Elias? For hours she waited beside the wreck, scanning the skies, heart pounding with every distant echo, every flicker of light. But he never came. Gone, she whispered. He's gone. She screamed, not just for him, but for everything. For the betrayal, the chains, the loss. For a life no one ever let her live. Then she stood. Because she wasn't going to be broken. Not anymore. 2 days later, she walked into the human border station wearing a torn coat and a steady stare. The soldiers at the checkpoint raised weapons until they saw what she held. The data core, and Elias Cade's ID badge, bloodstained but real. Who are you? The captain asked. I'm the reason your systems are about to crash, she said, voice like fire. Now take me to your command. Within hours, the contents of the data core flooded through human channels, slave transactions, secret auctions, names of politicians, warlords, entire networks of cruelty that no one had dared expose. And Elias had gathered it all for her. The humans didn't know what to do with her. She wasn't a citizen. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't supposed to matter. But she had something they didn't: proof, purpose, and nothing left to lose. They gave her a choice witness protection on a quiet colony, a new name, a safe life. But Lyraya said no. I won't hide. I want to speak. Let everyone see the girl they tried to erase. The news of the data leak shook entire systems. Some denied it. Others panicked. The slave market shut down in fear. Arrests began. But one name kept echoing through the networks. Lyraya. The girl they sold. The girl who came back. And then, just as the galaxy began to tremble at the weight of her truth, he returned. Elias, scarred, limping, alive. He walked into the station, silent as ever, and stood in front of her. She didn't cry. She punched him. You said don't. Die, he winced. I said I'd try. Then she hugged him. And this time, she didn't let go. Later, in a quiet room, he asked her, What will you do now? She looked out the window. Stars beyond stars. I don't know who I'll become, she said. But I know what I'm not. I'm not a slave. I'm not their secret, she turned to him. And I'm not alone anymore. Elias nodded. No, you're not. It wasn't love. Not yet. But it was something stronger. Respect. Trust. A bond forged not in softness but in fire. And from that moment on, her name was no longer spoken with pity. It was spoken with fear by those who once held the chains, and with hope by those still waiting to break free. She who was claimed by no one Illyria stepped onto the Grand Council floor, her bare feet echoing against the polished stone. Around her stood humans, aliens, generals, and politicians, many of them the same species that once priced her body like livestock. But now, none dared speak over her. She walked with her head high, no longer the girl on the auction block. She wasn't owned, wasn't chained, wasn't begging. She was here to speak and they would listen. The data core had already done its work. Entire networks had crumbled. Officials were exposed. Bounties were canceled. Some slavers vanished. Others begged for deals, but the galaxy wanted more than files. It wanted to see the face of the storm that burned it clean, so she stood at the center of the chamber. The lights dimmed. The room fell into silence. She began. I am not here to tell you my pain. You bought that story already piece by piece. When you turned your eyes away from people like me, she looked around slowly. You let the chains grow. You let the markets thrive. You let children disappear. And when someone spoke, you called them weak. She paused, then lifted Elias's old coat from her shoulders, placing it on the podium. But one man didn't. Eyes turned toward the back where Elias stood quietly, still bruised, still silent, still watching. He gave up everything to free someone the galaxy had forgotten, not because I was special, but because he believed someone had to stop pretending this was normal. She raised the core in her hand. You want a future? Then burn the past. Start with this. And she dropped it. The core shattered on the floor, the final signal set. The truth was out everywhere, forever. No one clapped. No one dared. Because in that moment, everyone understood. The rules had changed. She stepped down from the platform. Reporters tried to speak. Council guards tried to follow. But Lariah ignored them all. Elias met her at the bottom of the stairs. You could have taken power, he said. They would have made you a symbol. I don't want a throne, she replied. I want a life, he smiled faintly. And where will you go? She looked at him, calm and clear. Somewhere no one knows my name. Not because I'm hiding, but because I'm choosing who I want to be. He nodded once. Mind. If I come along? She smirked. Only if you stop trying to sacrifice yourself every time something explodes. No promises. Together, they walked through the gates of the council building, two figures against the vast light of a new morning. And across the galaxy, people whispered a new kind of story. About a girl sold into slavery. About a man who risked everything. About how neither one of them asked to be heroes. But when the world failed them, they stood anyway, not as master and servant, not even as savior and saved, but as two souls who refused to belong to anyone, except themselves.